Shalom, my name is Adam, and I welcome you to the parable of the vineyard. Every day, Yahuah is waking up a remnant, a group of people who are coming out of deceptions, realizing our walk is to consist of faith and obedience to His righteous commands. Each week, we read through and examine a portion of the Torah, allowing the Spirit of the Most High to guide, teach, and open our eyes and ears to the wondrous matters out of His law. Join us as we seek to be refined by His Word, preparing ourselves for the return of our King of Kings, being faithful and obedient, walking in His way, truth, and life. Welcome back, brothers and sisters, to the Parable of the Vineyard YouTube Torah portions. This week is week 11, the second to last week in the book of Genesis. This is Vayigash, which is Genesis 44:18 through 47:27. And last week we discussed Joseph rising to power, the 10 brothers going back to Egypt to buy food, or going to Egypt to buy food, Joseph testing them, then places the cup in Benjamin's sack, and then they return back to Egypt. And here we go with quite a bit more happening when they return with the stolen cup. But before we get started, let's pray, and we'll get right to it. Heavenly Father, Yahuah Most High, we just come before you in Yahusha's name, and we just pray that you open our eyes to the wondrous things that are written in your Torah, that we may understand and hearken to your word and be hearers and doers of your word to bring forth the fruit that you desire from us. We love you and we bless you in Yahusha's name. Amen. All right, let's get started with week 11. And as I just mentioned, we got one more week in Genesis, and then we're already in Exodus. Wow, where's the time going, right? Time flies when you're having fun reading the Torah. All right, so here we go. And we're going to start with Genesis 44:18. We're going to read through 44. Then we're going to read a little bit of 45, and then we're going to cross-reference with the book of Jasher, the Targums, and not a whole lot different than the Septuagint this week, so we're not going to be reading much from there this week. So anyways, let's get to it. We're going to be reading out of the Sefer version. And, okay. Genesis 44:18. Then Yehuda came near unto him and said, O my Lord, let your servant, I pray you, speak a word in my Lord's ears, and let not your anger burn against your servant, for you are even as Pharaoh. My Lord asked his servant, saying, Have ye a father or a brother? And we said unto my Lord, We have a father, an old man, and a child of his old age, a little one, and his brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother, and his father loves him. And he said unto your servants, Bring him down unto me, that I may set my eyes upon him. And just to back up, this is after the cup was placed in Benjamin's sack, and Joseph sent his men to go catch up with them. They're like, Hey, why'd you steal our cup? Come on back. And so here's this is the interaction. And we said unto my Lord, The lad cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die. And you said unto your servants, Except your youngest brother come down with you, you shall see my face no more. And it came to pass, when we came up unto your servant my father, we told him the words of my Lord. And our father said, Go again, and buy us a little food. And we said, We cannot go down. If our youngest brother be not with us, if our youngest brother be with us, then we will go down. For we may not see the man's face, except our youngest brother be with us. And your servant my father said unto us, Ye know that my woman bore me 2 sons. And the one went out for me, and I said, Surely he is torn in pieces, and I saw him not since. And if he take this also from me, and mischief befall him, ye shall bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to Sheol. Now therefore, when I come to your servant my father, and the lad be not with us, seeing that his life is bound up in the lad's life, it shall come to pass, when he sees that the lad is not with us, that he will die. And your servants shall bring down the gray hairs of your servant our father with sorrow to Sheol. For your servant became surety, or like, he was surety. So he was like a guarantee. He's like, I'm guilty if Benjamin doesn't come back. Like bond, he was like a bond for him. For your servant became surety for the lad unto my father, saying, if I bring him not unto you, then I shall bear the blame to my father forever. Now therefore I pray you, let your servant abide instead of the lad a bondman to my lord, and let the lad go up with his brethren. For how shall I go up to my father, and the lad be not with me? Lest perchance I see the evil that shall come on my father. Chapter 45. Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him, and he cried, cause every man to go out from me. And there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known unto his brethren. So let's pause here, because quite a bit actually happens here that we're not privy to in the book of Genesis, that is kind of tucked away in Genesis, and the Targums actually confirm it. So we're going to read Jasher chapter 53, starting at verse 27. And they hastened, and each man brought down his sack. Actually, we don't need to read all that. Let's see. Okay, this is all the same. Oh, now the internet's not working. Let's see here. Boy, I'm having just the toughest time with this. We tried to live stream this and it didn't work, and now I can't even get the internet to work. So that I can turn the page. All right. Okay, we're going we're going off the cell phone hotspot. Let's do it. Jasher 54. And when Judah saw the dealings of Joseph with them, Judah approached him and broke open the door, and came with his brethren before Joseph. And Judah said unto Joseph, let it not seem grievous in the sight of my lord. May thy servant, I pray thee, speak a word before thee? And Joseph said unto him, speak. And Judah spoke before Joseph, and his brethren were there standing before them. And Judah said unto Joseph, surely, when we first came to our lord to buy food, thou didst consider us spies of the land, and we brought Benjamin before thee, and thou still makest sport of us this day. So he's just like, you're just tossing us around. You're playing with us here. Now therefore, let the king hear my words, and send, I pray thee, our brother, that he may go along with us to our father, lest thy soul perish this day with all the souls of the inhabitants of Egypt. Dost thou not know what my two brethren, Simeon and Levi, did unto the city of Shechem, and unto the 7 cities of the Amorites, on account of our sister Dinah, and also what they would do for the sake of thy brother Benjamin? And I, with my strength, who am greater and mightier than both of them, come this day upon thee and thy land, if thou art unwilling to send our brother. Hast thou not heard what our Elohim, who made choice of us, did unto Pharaoh on account of Sarah our mother, whom he take away from our father? That he smote him and his household with heavy plagues, that even unto this day the Egyptians relate this wonder to each other? So will our Elohim do unto thee on account of Benjamin, whom thou hast this day taken from his father, and on account of the evils which thou this day heapest over us in thy land. For our Elohim will remember his covenant with our father Abraham, and bring evil upon thee, because thou hast grieved the soul of our father this day. Now therefore, hear my words that I have this day spoken unto thee, and send our brother that he may go away, lest thou and the people of thy land die by the sword, for you cannot prevail over me. And Joseph answered Yehudah, saying, why hast thou opened wide thy mouth, and why dost thou boast over us, saying, strength is with thee? As Pharaoh liveth, if I command all my valiant men to fight with you, surely thou and these thy brethren would sink in the mire. And Yehudah said unto Joseph, surely it becometh thee and all thy people to fear me, as Yahuah liveth. If I once draw my sword, I shall not sheathe it again until I shall this day have slain all Egypt. And I will commence with thee and finish with Pharaoh thy master. And Joseph answered and said unto him, surely strength belongeth not alone to thee. I am stronger and mightier than thou. Surely, if thou drawest thy sword, I will put it into thy neck and the necks of all thy brethren. And Yehudah said unto him, surely, if I this day open my mouth against thee, I would swallow thee up, that thou beest destroyed from off the face of the earth. and thus perish this day from thy kingdom. And Yosef said, Surely, if thou openest thy mouth, I have the power and might to close thy mouth with a stone, until thou shalt not be able to utter a word. And see how many stones are before us? Truly, I can take a stone and force it into thy mouth and break thy jaws. And Yehudah said, Elohim is witness between us, that we have not hitherto desired to battle with thee. Only give us our brother, and we will go from thee. And Yosef answered and said, As Pharaoh liveth, if all the kings of Canaan came together with you, you should not take him from thy hand. Now therefore, go your way to your father, and your brother shall be unto me for a slave, for he has robbed the king's house. And Yehudah said, What is it to thee or to the character of the king? Surely the king sendeth forth from his house throughout the land silver and gold, either in gifts or expenses. And thou still talkest about thy cup, which thou did place in our brother's bag, and sayest that he has stolen it from thee. So here we got an interesting back and forth between Judah and Joseph. And Judah's like, I know you put the cup in Benjamin's sack. Why are you doing this, Elohim forbid that our brother Benjamin or any of the seed of Avraham should do this thing to steal from thee, or from anyone else, whether king, prince, or any man. Now therefore, seize this accusation, lest the whole earth hear thy words, saying, For a little silver the king of Egypt wrangled with the men, and he accused them and took their brother for a slave. And Joseph answered and said, Take unto you this cup, and go from me, and leave your brother for a slave, for it is the judgment of a thief to be a slave. And Yehudah said, Why art thou not ashamed of thy words, to leave our brother, and to take thy cup? Surely, if thou givest us thy cup, or 1,000 times as much, we will not leave our brother for the silver which is found in the hand of any man, that we will not die over him. And Joseph answered, And why did you forsake your brother, and sell him for 20 pieces of silver unto this day? And why then will you not do the same to this your brother? And Yehudah said, Yahuah is witness between me and thee, that we desire not thy battles. Now therefore give us our brother, and we will go from thee without quarreling. And Joseph answered and said, If all the kings of the land should assemble, they would not be able to take your brother from my hand. And Yehudah said, What shall we say unto our father, when he seeth that our brother cometh not with us, and we will grieve over him? And Joseph answered and said, This is the thing which ye shall tell unto your father, saying, The rope has gone after the bucket. So what you're going to see here is Joseph is going to continue to kind of like diss his brothers, or kind of like, poke fun at them for the transgression that they did, with Joseph and throwing him into the pit and then selling him. And Yehudah said, Surely thou art a king, and why speakest thou these things, giving a false judgment? Woe unto the king who is like unto thee. And Joseph answered and said, There is no false judgment in the word that I spoke on account of your brother Joseph. For all of you sold him to the Midianites for 20 pieces of silver, and you all denied it to your father, and said unto him, An evil beast has devoured him. Joseph has been torn to pieces. And Yehudah said, Behold, the fire of Shem burneth in my heart. Now I will burn all your land with fire. And Joseph answered and said, Surely thy sister-in-law Tamar, who killed your sons, extinguished the fire of Shechem. Oof. Yeah, I'm in L.A. or Orange County. And Yehudah said, If I pluck out a single hair from thy flesh, I will fill all Egypt with its blood. And Joseph answered and said, Such is your custom to do, as you did to your brother whom you sold, and you dipped his coat in blood, and brought it to your father, in order that he might say, An evil beast devoured him, and here is his blood. And when Yehudah heard this thing, he was exceedingly wroth, and his anger burned within him. And there was before him in that place a stone, the weight of which was about 400 shekels. And Yehudah's anger was kindled, and he took the stone in one hand, and cast it to the heavens, and caught it with his left hand. And he placed it afterward under his legs, and he sat upon it with all his strength, and the stone was turned into dust before the force of Yehudah. And Joseph saw the act of Yehudah, and he was very much afraid. But he commended Manasseh his son, and he also did with another stone like unto the act of Yehudah. And Yehudah said to his brethren, Let not any of you say, This man is an Egyptian, but by his doing this thing, he is of our father's family. So Yehudah knew, he's like, this ain't right. This strength, this absolute strength only comes from my father's house. And Joseph said, Not to you only is strength given, for we also are powerful men. And why will you boast over us all? And Yehudah said unto Joseph, Send, I pray thee, our brother, and ruin not thy country this day. And Joseph answered and said unto them, Go and tell your father, an evil beast hath devoured him, as you said concerning your brother Joseph. And Yehudah spoke to his brother Naphtali, and he said unto him, Make haste, go now, and number all the streets of Egypt, and come and tell me. And Simeon said unto him, Let not this thing be a trouble to thee. Now I will go to the mount, and take up one large stone from the mount, and level it at every one in Egypt, and kill all that are in it. And Joseph heard all these words that his brethren spoke before him, and they did not know that Joseph understood them, for they imagined that he knew not to speak Hebrew. And Joseph was greatly afraid at the words of his brethren, lest they should destroy Egypt. And he commanded his son Manasseh, saying, Go now, make haste, and gather unto me all the inhabitants of Egypt, and all the valiant men together, and let them come to me now upon horseback, and on foot, and with all sorts of musical instruments. And Manasseh went and did so. And Naphtali went as Yehudah commanded him, for Naphtali was light-footed, as one of the swift stags, and he would go upon the ears of the corn, and they would not break under him. And he went and numbered all the streets of Egypt, and he found them to be 12. And he came hastily and told Yehudah. And Yehudah said unto his brethren, Hasten you, and put on every man his sword upon his loins, and we will come over Egypt and smite them all, and let not a remnant remain. And Yehudah said, Behold, I will destroy 3 of the streets with my strength, and ye shall each destroy 1 street. And when Yehudah was speaking this thing, behold, the inhabitants of Egypt and all the mighty men came toward them with all sorts of musical instruments, and with loud shouting. And their number was 500 cavalry, and 10,000 infantry, and 400 men who could fight without sword or spear, only with their hands and strength. And all the mighty men came with great storming and shouting, and they all surrounded the sons of Yaakov and terrified them. And the ground quaked at the sound of their shouting. And when the sons of Yaakov saw these troops, they were greatly afraid of their lives. And Joseph did so in order to terrify the sons of Yaakov to become tranquilized. And Yehudah, seeing some of his brethren terrified, said unto them, Why are you afraid whilst the grace of Elohim is with us? And when Yehudah saw all the people of Egypt surrounding them, at the command of Joseph to terrify them, only Joseph commanded them, saying, Do not touch any of them. Then Yehudah hastened and drew his sword, and uttered a loud and bitter scream. And he smote with his sword, and he sprang upon the ground, and he still continued to shout against all the people. And when he did this thing, Yahuah caused the terror of Yehudah and his brethren to fall upon the valiant men and all the people that surrounded them. And they all fled at the sound of the shouting, and they were terrified, and fell one upon the other, and many of them died as they fell. And they all fled from before Yehudah and his brethren, and from before Joseph. And whilst they were fleeing, Yehudah and his brethren pursued them unto the house of Pharaoh, and they all escaped. And Yehudah again sat before Joseph, and roared at him like a lion, and gave a great and tremendous shriek at him. And the shriek was heard at a distance, and all the inhabitants of Sukkoth heard it. And all Egypt quaked at the sound of the shriek, and also the walls of Egypt and the land of Goshen fell in from the shaking of the earth. And Pharaoh also fell from his throne upon the ground, and also all the pregnant women of Egypt and Goshen miscarried when they heard the noise of the shaking, for they were terribly afraid. And Pharaoh sent word, saying, What is this thing that has this day happened in the land of Egypt? And they came and told him all the things from the beginning to end. And Pharaoh was alarmed, and he wondered and was greatly afraid. And this fright increased when he heard all these things. And he said unto Joseph, saying, Thou hast brought unto me the Hebrews to destroy all Egypt. What wilt thou do with that thievish slave? Send him away, and let him go with his brethren, and let us not perish through their evil, even we, you, and all Egypt. And if thou desirest not to do this thing, cast off from thee all my valuable things, and go with them to their land, if thou delightest in it. For they will this day destroy my whole country, and slay all my people. Even all the women of Egypt have miscarried through their screams. See what they have done merely by their shouting and speaking. Moreover, if they fight with the sword, they will destroy the land. Now therefore, choose that which thou desirest, whether me or the Hebrews, whether Egypt or the land of the Hebrews. And they came and told Joseph all the words of Pharaoh that he had said concerning him. And Joseph was greatly afraid at the words of Pharaoh, and Yehudah and his brethren were still standing before Joseph, indignant and enraged. And all the sons of Yaakov roared at Joseph, like the roaring of the sea in its waves. And Joseph was greatly afraid of his brethren on account of Pharaoh. And Joseph sought a pretext to make himself known unto his brethren, lest they should destroy all Egypt. So now Joseph is like, okay, I need a way out of this, because this is getting crazy. It's time to back off and figure this thing out. And Joseph commanded his son Manasseh, and Manasseh went and approached Yehudah, and placed his hand upon his shoulder, and the anger of Yehudah was stilled. And Yehudah said unto his brethren, Let no one of you say that this is the act of an Egyptian youth, for this is the work of my father's house. And Yosef, seeing and knowing that Yehuda's anger was stilled, he approached to speak unto Yehuda in the language of mildness. And Yosef said unto Yehuda, Surely you speak truth, and have this day verified your assertions concerning your strength. And may your Elohim, who delighteth in you, increase your welfare. But tell me truly, why from amongst all thy brethren dost thou wrangle with me on account of the lad, as none of them have spoken one word to me concerning him? And Yehuda answered Yosef, saying, Surely thou must know that I was security for the lad to his father, saying, If I brought him not unto him, I should bear his blame forever. Therefore I have approached thee from amongst all my brethren, for I saw that thou wast unwilling to suffer him to go from thee. Now therefore may I find grace in thy sight, that thou shalt send him to go with us. And behold, I will remain as a substitute for him, to serve thee in whatever thou desirest. For wheresoever thou shalt send me, I will go to serve thee with great energy. Send me now to a mighty king who has rebelled against thee, and thou shalt know what I will do unto him and unto his land. Although he may have a cavalry and infantry or exceeding mighty people, I will slay them all and bring the king's head before thee. Dost thou not know, or hast thou not heard, that our father Avraham with his servant Eliezer smote all the kings of Elam with their hosts in one night? They left not one remaining. And ever since that day our father's strength was given unto us for an inheritance, for us and our seed forever. And Yosef answered and said, You speak truth, and falsehood is not in your mouth. For it was also told unto us that the Hebrews have power, and that Yahuah their Elohim delighteth much in them. And who then can stand before them? However, on this condition I will send your brother. If you will bring before me his brother, the son of his mother, of whom you said that he had gone from you down to Egypt. And it shall come to pass, when you bring unto me his brother, I will take him in his stead, because not one of you was security for him to your father. And when he shall come unto me, I will then send with you his brother for whom you have been security. And Yehuda's anger was kindled against Yosef when he spoke this thing, and his eyes dropped blood with anger, and he said unto his brethren, How does this man this day seek his own destruction and all that of Egypt? And Simeon answered Yosef, saying, Did we not tell you at first that we knew not the particular spot to which he went, and whether he be dead or alive? And wherefore speaketh my Lord like unto these things? And Yosef, observing the countenance of Yehuda, discerned that his anger began to kindle when he spoke unto him, saying, Bring unto me your other brother instead of this brother. And Yosef said unto his brethren, Surely you said that your brother was either dead or lost. Now, if I should call him this day, and he should come before you, would you give him unto me instead of his brother? And Yosef began to speak and call out, Yosef, Yosef, come this day before me, and appear to thy brethren, and sit before them. And when Yosef spoke these things before them, they all looked at each other a different way to see from whence Yosef would come before them. So like, where is he? Where is he? And Yosef observed all their acts, and said unto them, Why do you look here and there? I am Yosef, whom you sold to Egypt. Now therefore, let it not grieve you that you sold me, for as a support during the famine did Elohim send me before you. And his brethren were terrified at him when they heard the words of Yosef, and Yehuda was exceedingly terrified at him. And when Benjamin heard the words of Yosef, he was before them in the inner part of the house. And Benjamin ran unto Yosef his brother, and embraced him, and fell upon his neck, and they wept. And when Yosef's brethren saw that Benjamin had fallen upon his brother's neck, and wept with him, they also fell upon Yosef, and embraced him, and they wept a great weeping with Yosef. And the voice was heard in the house of Yosef, that they were Yosef's brethren, and it pleased Pharaoh exceedingly, for he was afraid of them, lest they should destroy Egypt. And Pharaoh sent his servants unto Yosef to congratulate him concerning his brethren who had come to him. And all the captains of the armies and troops that were in Egypt came to rejoice with Yosef, and all Egypt rejoiced greatly about Yosef's brethren. And Pharaoh sent his servants to Yosef, saying, Tell thy brethren to fetch all belonging to them, and let them come unto me, and I will place them in the best part of the land of Egypt. And they did so. And Yosef commanded him that was set over his house to bring out to his brethren gifts and garments, and he brought out to them many garments, being robes of royalty, and many gifts, and Yosef divided them amongst his brethren. Actually, let's stop there. Yeah, actually, I went a little too far. And let's finish up chapter 45 of Genesis, and then we'll go back to Jasher, because there's quite a bit more actually to glean there. So we are right here in 45. So then Yosef could not refrain himself before all them that stood before him, and he cried, Cause every man to go out from me. And there stood no man with him. And while Yosef made himself known unto his brethren, he wept aloud in the Mitzrayim, and all the house of Pharaoh heard. And Yosef said unto his brethren, I am Yosef. Does my father yet live? And his brethren could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence. And Joseph said unto his brethren, Come near to me, I pray you. And they came near, and he said, I am Joseph your brother, whom you sold into Mitzrayim. Now therefore, be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves, that ye sold me hither. For Elohim did send me before you to preserve life. So, one thing we can really glean from this is just recognizing that, we know the saying that Elohim can take something that is intended for bad and turning it into good. And, to a certain extent, perhaps even this thought of doing this, putting Joseph in the pit and selling him, you can almost even say that Elohim put it in their mind to fulfill his will. Or, you can even look at it as, well, they tried to do him harm, and Elohim was like, okay, we'll do this and this and this, and, this is how it's going to work out, and I'm going to end up, using this for good. So, either way, it's just, so we have to realize, even though if, people do, wrong things to us, we have to always trust that Yahuah is watching over us. And, there's so many scriptures we can talk about that talks about how he preserves his righteous, how he looks over his righteous, he guards them. Even most of us know Psalm 91, that guards them as the apple of an eye. And that's certainly what he did with Joseph, even though it appeared like he forsook him for many years. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. The patience that Joseph endured, being in jail for 12 years, really for doing nothing wrong. He was in there for 10 years, and then he tried to get out by, getting the chief, the butler. He's like, yo, get me out of here. Putting in a good word for Pharaoh. And so we saw that Yahuah was a little upset with him for that, and he stayed in for another 2 years. But nevertheless, even when rough things happen in our life, we have to have the patience with knowing that Yahuah will deliver us eventually, even if it takes time, even if it looks like we're in a dire situation, even if it looks like, all hope could be lost. It's not. And really, patience has been the topic of discussion in these Torah portions for the last couple weeks. And same thing here. So, for these 2 years has the famine been in the land, and yet there are 5 years in which there shall neither be earing nor harvest. And Elohim sent me before you to preserve you a posterity in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So now it was not you that sent me hither, but Elohim. So again, this is kind of what I was alluding to, that, even go back to when Yahuah gave Joseph the dreams. He gave him the dreams showing them his brothers were going to bow down to him, right? So we know that Yahuah knew exactly how it was going to go down before. So, he could have even given those dreams to Joseph, knowing that Joseph would tell the dreams, knowing that the brothers would get jealous at him, knowing that jealousy would eventually drive them for them to do what they did. So, gotta have faith. So again, it was not you that sent me hither, but Elohim, and he has made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Mitzrayim. Haste ye, and go up to my father, and say unto him, Thus says your son Joseph, Elohim has made me lord of all Mitzrayim. Come down unto me, tarry not, and you shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near unto me, you and your children, and your children's children, and your flocks and your herds, and all that you have. And there will I nourish you, for yet there are 5 years of famine, lest you and your household and all that you have come to poverty. And behold, your eyes see in the eyes of my brother Benjamin that it is my mouth that speaks unto you. The Targum says here that I am speaking to you in Hebrew. And ye shall tell my father of all my glory in Mitzrayim, and of all that ye have seen, and ye shall haste and bring down my father hither. And he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept upon his neck. Moreover, he kissed all his brethren and wept upon them. And after that all his brethren talked with him. And the fame thereof was heard in Pharaoh's house, saying, Joseph's brethren are come. And it pleased Pharaoh well, and his servants. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, Say unto your brethren, This do ye, lay your beasts, and go, and get you into the land of Canaan, and take your father and your households, and come unto me, and I will give you the good of the land of Mitzrayim, and ye shall eat the fat of the land. Now you are commanded, this do ye, take you wagons out of the land of Mitzrayim for your little ones, and for your women, and bring your father, and come. Also, regard not your stuff, for the good of all the land of Mitzrayim is yours. And the children of Yashrael did so. And Joseph gave them wagons according to the commandment of Pharaoh, and gave them provisions for the way. To all of them he gave each man changes of raiment, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver, and 5 changes of raiment. And to his father he sent after this manner, 10 asses laden with the good things of Mitzrayim, and 10 she-asses laden with grain, and bread, and meat for his father by the way. So he sent his brethren away, and they departed. And he said unto him, See that ye fall not out by the way. And they went up out of Mitzrayim, and came into the land of Canaan unto Yaakov their father, and told him, saying, Joseph is yet alive, and he is governor over all the land of Mitzrayim. And Yaakov's heart fainted, for he believed them not. And they told him all the words of Joseph, which he had said unto them. And when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to carry him, the ruach of Yaakov their father revived. And Yasharel said, It is enough. Joseph my son is yet alive. I will go and see him before I die. All right, let's go back to Yashar now, and we're going to read Yashar. We'll read Yashar 54:91 through 55:1. And they came unto the borders of the land, and they said to each other, What shall we do in this matter before our father? For if we come suddenly to him and tell him the matter, he will be greatly alarmed at our words, and will not believe us. And they went along until they came nigh unto their houses, and they found Sarah, the daughter of Asher, going forth to meet them. And the damsel was very good and subtle, and knew how to play upon the harp. And they called unto her, and she came before them, and she kissed them. And they took her and gave unto her a harp, saying, Go now before our father, and sit before him, and strike upon the harp, and speak these words. And they commanded her to go to their house. And she took the harp, and hastened before them, and she came and sat near Yaakov. And she played well, and sang, and uttered in sweetness of her words, Joseph my uncle is living, and he ruleth throughout the land of Egypt, and is not dead. And she continued to repeat and utter these words. And Yaakov heard her words, and they were agreeable to him. He listened while she repeated them twice and thrice, and joy entered the heart of Yaakov at the sweetness of her words. And the spirit of Elohim was upon him, and he knew all her words to be true. And Yaakov blessed Sarah when she spoke these words before him, and said unto her, My daughter, may death never prevail over thee. Well, this will come into play a little bit later. Remember this part. May death never prevail over thee, for thou hast revived my spirit. Only speak yet before me as thou hast spoken, for thou hast gladdened me with all thy words. And she continued to sing these words. And Yaakov listened, and it pleased him, and he rejoiced, and the spirit of Elohim was upon him. Whilst he was yet speaking with her, behold, his sons came to him with horses and chariots and royal garments, and servants running before them. And Yaakov rose up to meet them, and saw his sons dressed in royal garments, and he saw all the treasures that Joseph had sent to them. And they said unto him, Be informed that our brother Joseph is living, and he it is who ruleth throughout the land of Egypt, and it is he who spoke unto us as we told you. And Yaakov heard all the words of his sons, and his heart palpitated at their words, for he could not believe them until he saw all that Joseph had given unto them, and what he had sent them, and all the signs which Joseph had spoken unto them. And they opened out before him, and showed him all that Joseph had sent, and they gave unto each what Joseph had sent him, and he knew that they had spoken the truth, and he rejoiced exceedingly on account of his son. And Yaakov said, It is enough for me that my son Joseph is still living. I will go and see him before I die. And his sons told him all that had befallen them. And Yaakov said, I will go down to Egypt to see my son and his offspring. And Yaakov rose up and put on the garments which Joseph had sent him. And after he had washed and shaved his hair, he put upon his head the turban which Joseph had sent him. And all the people of Yaakov's house and their wives put on the garments which Joseph had sent to them. And they greatly rejoiced at Joseph that he was still living, and that he was ruling in Egypt. And all the inhabitants of Canaan heard of this thing, and they came and rejoiced much with Yaakov that he was still living. And Yaakov made a feast for them for 3 days, and all the kings of Canaan and the nobles of the land ate and drank and rejoiced in the house of Yaakov. And chapter 55 of Yashar. And it came to pass after this that Yaakov said, I will go and see my son in Egypt, and will then come back into the land of Canaan, of which place Elohim had spoken unto Avraham, for I cannot leave the land of my birthplace. All right, now let's read a little bit of the Targums. We're going to, read, okay. We'll read the first 3 paragraphs. Okay. And Yehuda came near to him and said, I want to read this because this confirms Jasher. Let thy servant, I implore, speak a word in the hearing of my Lord, and let not thy anger grow strong against thy servant. For at the hour that we came unto thee, thou didst say to us, I fear before Yahuah, and now thy judgments are rendered like the judgments of a prince of Pharaoh. My Lord asked his servant, saying, have you a father or brother? And Yehuda came near to him and said, in beseeching thee, my Lord, let thy servant now speak a word in the hearing of my Lord, and let not thy anger be strong against thy servant. For at the first time we came down to thee in Mitzrayim, didst thou not tell us, I fear before Yahuah? And now thy judgments are returned like the judgments of Pharaoh thy Lord, by whom thou adjurest. Yet I am honorable as thou art, and my father is honorable as Pharaoh thy Lord is, by whom thou dost adjure. Can I not swear by the life of the head of my father and not lie? For if I draw my sword from within its sheath, I would not return it till it had filled all the land of Mitzrayim with the slain. To sheath it, I would not return it till I had made all Mitzrayim desolate of inhabitants, beginning with thyself and ending with Pharaoh thy Lord, were it not against the will of my father. So, again, this is confirming exactly what Yashar said. Or hath it not been heard by thee, nor told thee, what my 2 brothers Shimon and Levi did, who went up against the town of Shechem while they were dwelling in security, and killed every male by the edge of the sword, because they bad corrupted Dinah our sister, who hath not been numbered in the tribes, nor hath portion or inheritance with us in the dividing of the land? By how much more then shall it be done for Benjamin our brother, who is numbered with us among the tribes, and who hath portion and inheritance with us in the dividing of the land? And in force is more unyielding than theirs, because I have become the sponsor for the youth at the hands of my father, saying, if I bring him not to thee, and set him before thee, I will be guilty with thee, and be removing from thy salutation all the days. Hast thou not heard, or hath it not been told thee, that in the land of Canaan we are kings and princes, and thou as thou art? When Yosef the beloved and honorable saw that the strength of Yehuda his brother had risen up, and that the thoughts of his heart came forth, that they rent their garments, in that hour beckoned Yosef to Manasseh his firstborn, and stamped with his shoe, and all Yosef's palace trembled. In that hour Yehuda said, if it had not been on the side of the house of my father, it would have not been done so. So he's saying, like, this is the handiwork of my father's house. This is not an Egyptian. Then began Yehuda to be milder in his words, and he said, my Lord asked his servant, saying, have you a father or brother? And let's see. We'll stop there. I think it's all pretty much the same there. Okay. So let's get back to chapter 46. Wait, is there something? Yeah, okay. We'll just keep going. Okay, chapter 46. And Yashrael took his journey, Yaakov. And Yashrael took his journey with all that he had, and came to Beersheba, and offered sacrifices unto the Elohim of his father Yitzchak. And Elohim spoke unto Yashrael in the visions of the night, and said, Yaakov, Yaakov. And he said, here am I. And he said, I am El, the Elohai of your father. Fear not to go down into Mitzrayim, for I will there make of you a great nation. I will go down with you into Mitzrayim, and I will also surely bring you up again. And Yosef shall put his hand upon your eyes. And Yaakov rose up from Beersheba, and the sons of Yashrael carried Yaakov their father, and their little ones, and their women, in the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. And they took their cattle, and their goods, which they had gotten in the land of Canaan, and came into Mitzrayim, Yaakov and all his seed with him, his sons and his sons' sons with him, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all his seed brought he with him into Mitzrayim. And these are the names of the children of Yashrael, which came into Mitzrayim: Yaakov and his sons, Reuven, Yaakov's firstborn, and the sons of Reuven, Chanok and Palu, and Chetzron and Carmi, and the sons of Shimon, Yemuel, and Yamin, and Ochad, and Yakin, and Soar, and Shaul, the son of a Canaanite woman. And the sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. And the sons of Yehuda, Onan, and Shelach, and Peretz, and Zerach. But and Onan died in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Peretz were Chetzron and Chamul. And the sons of Yissachar, Tola, and Pua, and Yov, and Shimron. And the sons of Zebulun, Sered, Elon, and Yachael. These be the sons of Leah, which she bore unto Yaakov in Padan Aram, with his daughter Dinah. All the souls of his sons and his daughters were 33. And the sons of Gad, Tziphon, Chagai, Shunai, and Etzbon, Irai, and Arodai, and Arelai. And the sons of Asher, Yimna, Yishva, Yishvai, and Beriah, and Serach, their sister. And the sons of Beriah, Hever, and Malkiel. So it's interesting that the one woman that was mentioned is Serach, which we saw earlier, played on the harp for Yaakov, and you'll actually see why it's important here in the Targums. Because remember, Yaakov prophesied that over her, with the spirit of Yahuah was upon him, and he prophesied that, may she never see death. So listen to that. And Hever and Malkiel. These are the sons of Zilpah, whom Lavan gave to Leah his daughter, and these she bore unto Yaakov, even 16 souls. The sons of Rachel, Yaakov's woman, Yosef and Benjamin. And unto Yosef in the land of Mitzrayim were born Manasseh and Ephraim, which Asenath, a daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore unto him. And the sons of Benjamin were Bela, Becher, Ashbel, Gera, Naaman, Ichai, Rosh, Mupim, Chupim, and Ard. And we heard earlier, I think last portion, that the sons of Benjamin were named after Yosef, but we don't actually get any explanation, but we will in Targums here shortly. It's pretty interesting. These are the sons of Rachel, which were born unto Yaakov. All the souls were 14. And the sons of Dan, Hushim. And the sons of Naphtali, Yachtzael, and Gunai, and Yetzer, and Shilem. These are the sons of Bilhah, which Lavan gave unto Rachel his daughter, and she bore these unto Yaakov. All the souls were 7. All the souls that came with Yaakov into Mitzrayim, which came out of his loins, besides Yaakov's sons' women, all the souls were 66. And the sons of Yosef, which were born him in Mitzrayim, were 2 souls. And all the souls of the house of Yaakov, which came into Mitzrayim, were 70. And he sent Yehuda before him unto El Yosef to direct his face unto Goshen. And they came into the land of Goshen. And Yosef made ready his chariot, and went up to meet Yashrael his father to Goshen, and presented himself unto him, and fell on his neck, and wept on his neck a good while. And Yashrael said unto El Yosef, Now let me die, since I have seen your face, because you are yet alive. And Yosef said unto his brethren and unto his father's house, I will go up and show Pharaoh, and say unto him, My brethren and my father's house, which are in the land of Canaan, are come unto me. And the men are shepherds, for their trade has been to feed cattle, and they have brought their flocks and their herds and all that they have. And it shall come to pass, when Pharaoh shall call you, and shall say, What is your occupation? That ye shall say, Your servant's trade has been about cattle from our youth even until now, both we and also our fathers, that ye may dwell in the land of Goshen. For every shepherd is an abomination unto the Mitzrayim. And that's the end of 46, and we're going to stop and talk a little bit about... let's see, we're going to read Jasher 55, 7 through 15. And Yosef harnessed the chariot, and he assembled all his mighty men and his servants and all the officers of Egypt in order to go and meet his father Yaakov. And Yosef's mandate was proclaimed in Egypt, saying, All that do not go to meet Yaakov shall die. So he wanted this huge procession. So all of Egypt came out. And on the next day Yosef went forth with all Egypt, a great and mighty host, all dressed in garments of fine linen and purple, and with instruments of silver and gold, and with their instruments of war with them. And they all went to meet Yaakov with all sorts of musical instruments, with drums and timbrels, strewing myrrh and aloes all along the road. And they all went after this fashion, and the earth shook at their shouting. And all the women of Egypt went upon the roofs of Egypt and upon the walls to meet Yaakov. And upon the head of Yosef was Pharaoh's regal crown, for Pharaoh had sent it unto him to put it on at the time of his going out to meet his father. And when Yosef came within 50 cubits of his father, he alighted from the chariot, and he walked towards his father. And when all the officers of Egypt and all their nobles saw that Yosef had gone on foot towards his father, they also alighted and walked on foot toward Yaakov. And when Yaakov approached the camp of Yosef, Yaakov observed the camp, that it was coming toward him with Yosef, and it gratified him, and Yaakov was astonished at it. And Yaakov said unto Yehuda, Who is that man who I see in the camp of Egypt, dressed in kingly robes, with a very red garment upon him, and a royal crown upon his head, who has alighted from his chariot, and is coming towards us? And Yehuda answered his father, saying, He is thy son Yosef the king. And Yosef rejoiced in seeing the glory of his son. And Yosef came nigh unto his father, and he bowed to his father, and all the men of the camp bowed to the ground with him before Yaakov. And behold, Yaakov ran and hastened to his son Yosef, and fell upon his neck and kissed him, and they wept. And Yosef also embraced his father and kissed him, and they wept, and all the people of Egypt wept with him. Wow. Can you imagine the sight of that? I mean, just probably maybe a good 100,000 people, maybe even more. And all the music and all the, just the way Yosef was dressed. I mean, all those years of pain and sorrow that Yaakov had for his son Yosef, and this reuniting, just, man, can you imagine being there and seeing all that? Just amazing. All right. All right, let's see. Hang on 1 second. So, hold on, let's see. Sorry. 1, 2. Yeah, okay. We'll just keep going. Sorry. Okay, so 46 in the Targums, and Israel journeyed with all that he had and came to Beersheba and offered sacrifices to the Elohim of his father Yitzchak. And Yahuah spake to Israel in a prophecy of the night and said, Yaakov, and he said, Behold me. And he said, I am Elohim, the Elohim of thy father. Fear not to go down into Mitzrayim on account of the servitude I have decreed with Avraham. For a great people will I make thee there. I am he who in my word will go down with thee into Mitzrayim. I will regard the affliction of thy children, and my word, so remember, the word is Yahusha. So he's saying, Yahusha shall bring thee up from thence, and cause thy children to come up. But Yosef shall lay his hand upon thine eyes. And Yaakov arose from Beersheba, and the sons of Yashrael journeyed with Yaakov their father, their little ones, and their wives, in the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. They took their possessions and the substance which they had gotten in the land of Canaan, and came into Mitzrayim. Yaakov and all his sons with him, and his sons' sons' children with him, his daughters and the daughters of his sons, and all his seed came with him to Mitzrayim. So there's some interesting little things here in the lineage here. I'll just read it. These are the names of the sons of Yashrael who came into Mitzrayim. Yaakov and his sons, the firstborn of Yaakov, Reuben, and the sons of Reuben, Chanok, and Phalu, and Chetzron, and Carmi. The sons of Shimon, Yemuel, Yamin, Ochad, Yachin, Sochar, and Shaul. He is Zimri, who made the work of the Canaanites in Shittim. And the sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. The sons of Yehuda, Onan, Shelah, Pheretz, and Zerach. But and Onan died on account of their evil work in the land of Canaan. And Shelah and Zerach had no children in the land of Canaan. But the sons of Pheretz, who went down into Mitzrayim, were Chetzron and Chamul. The sons of Issachar, sages and masters of reasoning. Their names were Tola, Phua, Yob, and Shimron. The sons of Zebulon, merchants, masters of commerce, nourishing their brethren. The sons of Issachar, and receiving a reward like theirs. Their names were Sered, Elon, and Jalil. These are the sons of Leah, whom she bare unto Yaakov in Padan Aram, with Dinah his daughter. All the souls of his sons of his daughter, 33. The children of Gad, Shephon, Haggai, Suni, Ezbon, Erai, Arodai, and Arelai. The children of Asher, Yimna, Yishva, Yishvai, Beriah, and Serach, their sister, listen, who was carried away while alive into the Garden of Eden, because she had announced to Yaakov that Yosef still lived. So here it is, the Targums completely confirming the book of Jasher and that account of her playing the harp and telling Yaakov that Yosef was still alive. Pretty interesting. It would. Let's see. I want to go down to. There you go. Oh yeah, here we go. And to Joseph were born two sons in the land of Mitzrayim, whom Asenath, the daughter of Dinah, educated in the house of Potiphar of Tanis-Ber, Manasseh, and Ephraim. So here we get confirmed that Joseph's wife, Asenath, was a Hebrew. The sons of Benjamin, 10, and their names according to the interpretation of Joseph, his brother. So remember I was telling you earlier that Benjamin's sons were named after Joseph. Well, here we'll get the explanation how and why. Bela, who was swallowed up from him, and that because the name Bela is that. So all these names, it's after the name is read, then it'll tell you kind of the interpretation of the name. Bela, who was swallowed up from him. Becher, who was the chosen of his mother. Eshbal, who went into captivity. Gera, who became a sojourner in a foreign land. Naaman, who was pleasant and honorable. Achi, who had a twin brother, the son of his mother. Rosh, who was a chief in his father's house. Mupim, who was sold into Muf. Chupim, because at the time he was separated from him, he was the son of 18 years and was eligible for marriage. So Chupim, we can liken that to a chuppah, right? It's part of the wedding ceremony. And Ared, who descended into Mitzrayim. These are the children of Rachel who were born unto Yaakov. So the rest is all the same. So I just wanted to share with you some of those interesting little tidbits. All right, so now we're just going to read 47, and we're going to finish up the Torah portion tonight. We're going to go to verse 27. Then Joseph came and told Pharaoh and said, My father and my brethren and all their flocks and all their herds and all that they have are come out of the land of Canaan, and behold, they are in the land of Goshen. And he took some of his brethren, even 5 men, and presented them unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto his brethren, What is your occupation? And they said unto Pharaoh, Your servants are shepherds, both we and also our fathers. And they said moreover unto Pharaoh, For to sojourn in the land are we come. For your servants have no pasture for their flocks. For the famine is sore in the land of Canaan. And now, therefore, we pray you, let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh spoke unto Joseph, saying, Your father and your brethren are come unto you. The land of Mitzrayim is before you. In the best of the land make your father and your brethren to dwell. In the land of Goshen let them dwell. And if you know any men of activity among them, then make them rulers over my cattle. And Joseph brought in Yaakov his father, and set him before Pharaoh. And Yaakov blessed Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Yaakov, How old are you? And Yaakov said unto Pharaoh, The days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have the days of my life been, and have not attained unto the days of the years of the life of my fathers, and the days of their pilgrimage. And Yaakov blessed Pharaoh, and went out from before Pharaoh. And Joseph placed his father and his brethren, and gave them a possession in the land of Mitzrayim, and the best of the land, in the land of Ramesses, as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph nourished his father and his brethren, and all that his father's household, with bread according to their families. And there was no bread in all the land, or no bread being reaped, because we know that Joseph had stored all the food. The famine was very sore, so that the land of Mitzrayim and all the land of Canaan fainted by the reason of the famine. And we learn in the book of Yashar that the people were instructed to put away their food, but because they didn't store it properly, vermin got into them and defiled the food, and it wasn't suitable for food. Something to think about for some of you that store your food, that are prepping, or like preppers and storing your food. Consider getting food grade buckets that are sealable, that have like a screw-on seal. Putting in some of those moisture absorbers, those little packets that say "Do not eat me." Consider, putting some of your rice and beans in there so they don't spoil. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Mitzrayim and in the land of Canaan for the grain which they bought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. And when the money failed in the land of Mitzrayim and in the land of Canaan, all the Mitzrayim came unto Joseph and said, Give us bread, for why should we die in your presence, for all the money fails? And Joseph said, Give your cattle, and I will give you for your cattle if money fail. And they brought their cattle unto Joseph. And Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses, and for the flocks, and for the cattle of the herds, and for the asses, and he fed them with bread for all their cattle for that year. And when that year was ended, they came unto him a second year, and said unto him, We will not hide it from my lord, how that our money is spent. My lord also has our herds of cattle. There is not aught left in the sight of my lord, but our bodies and our lands. Wherefore shall we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread. and we in our land will be servants unto Pharaoh. Give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land be not desolate. And so this is something interesting to consider, for these end times. A lot of people are talking about forced VAXXs, and I'm here to say I have a feeling that they're not going to force anybody, but there may be a point where maybe we will have to take something like that to buy and sell, or at least go to the grocery stores and buy them there. That's not to say I don't think they're going to stop us from growing our own food, but most people aren't ready for that, so they're not even counting on that. Probably 90% of the population doesn't even have land to grow food on. Maybe less, maybe 80%. I don't know. I'm just speculating. All I'm saying is, though, I think it'll be very easy for the governments of the world to essentially own their people. They already own the people, but really get them to do what they want over famine. And we're seeing here, they're selling their cattle, they're selling their land, they're selling themselves just so that they don't go hungry. And I think another reason why we should consider having some food stored. We're never going to rely on ourselves, that we're going to save ourselves, because Yahuah could rain down manna in his righteous people's backyards. But I'm just saying, I think also we have a duty to us and our family to have some sort of preparations. So he said, buy us in our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants unto Pharaoh, and give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land be not desolate. And Joseph bought all the land of Mitzrayim for Pharaoh, for the Mitzrayim sold every man his field, because the famine prevailed over them. So the land became Pharaoh's. And as for the people, he removed them to cities from one end of the borders of Mitzrayim even to the other end. Or removed them. Only the land of the priests bought he not, for the priests had a portion assigned them of Pharaoh, and did eat their portion which Pharaoh gave them, wherefore they sold not their lands. Then Joseph said unto the people, Behold, I have bought you this day and your land for Pharaoh. Lo, here is seed for you, and ye shall sow the land. And it shall come to pass in the increase that ye shall give the 5th part unto Pharaoh, and 4 parts shall be your own, for seed of the field and for your food, and for them of your households, and for food for your little ones. And they said, You have saved our lives. Let us find grace in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants. And Joseph made it a law over the Mitzrayim unto this day, that Pharaoh should have the 5th part, except the land of the priests only, which became not Pharaoh's. And Yashrael dwelt in the land of Mitzrayim, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions therein, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. And that is the end of this week's Torah portion. And again, we can learn a few things. Patience, knowing that Yah can use what some intend for evil for good. Patience, and patience, and patience, and patience, and trust in Him, for His eyes are over the righteous. And prepare. So, a couple announcements.